the lantern keeper in the heart of a vast and ever-shifting desert, where the sun reigned as both a tyrant and a muse, there lived an old lantern keeper named Elias. His home was a solitary tower, weathered by sandstorms and time, standing defiant against the endless dunes. The lantern he kept was no ordinary light. It was said to hold the essence of wisdom, a beacon for weary travelers seeking guidance. Elias himself was a man of riddles and silence, a keeper of secrets as ancient as the sands themselves. Yet, he was not the hero of this story. That title belonged to a young wanderer named Cale. Cale was born into turmoil, his village swallowed by war before he could even walk. By the time he was 16, he had seen more deaths than most would in a lifetime. His heart was heavy with anger, a burden he carried like a second shadow. He roamed the desert not out of choice but necessity, each footstep driven by a restless hunger for answers. Why had his family been taken? Why did injustice thrive? Why did the gods remain silent? These questions haunted him, gnawed at his soul until he stumbled upon the tower one fateful evening. Elias greeted him with neither warmth nor hostility. He simply opened the heavy wooden door and gestured for Cale to enter. The air inside the tower was cool, scented with herbs and old parchment. The walls were lined with books, their spines cracked and faded, whispering of forgotten knowledge. At the center of the room stood the lantern, its light pulsing gently, like the heartbeat of the universe itself. You seek answers, Elias said, his voice a raspy echo of countless years. But you will find none until you know the right questions. Cale bristled at the cryptic words. I've spent my life asking questions. None of them have been answered. Elias smiled faintly, his eyes gleaming like embers. Then perhaps you've been asking the wrong person. Cale's frustration boiled over. If you know so much, then tell me, why does the world suffer? Why do the innocent die while the wicked prosper? The old man studied him for a long moment before speaking. The world suffers because it must. The universe thrives on balance, and balance demands contrast. Without darkness, light has no meaning. Without sorrow, joy is hollow. And as for the wicked, he paused, his gaze turning distant. Their prosperity is fleeting. All things return to the dust from which they came. Cale shook his head, unsatisfied. That's just more riddles. I don't need philosophy. I need truth. Elias chuckled softly. Truth is not something you find. It is something you become. The words lingered in the air, heavy and incomprehensible. Cale wanted to argue, to demand more, but he realized he was exhausted. Elias offered him a simple meal and a bed of woven mats. That night, Cale dreamed of his family, their faces blurred and fading, as if they were slipping away into the void of his memory. When he awoke, Elias was waiting for him at the base of the tower. The lantern has spoken, he said, handing Cale a small, intricately carved box. Your journey is not over, but it begins anew. This will guide you. Cale opened the box to find a shard of crystal, its surface shimmering with an inner light. What is this? He asked. A fragment of clarity, Elias replied. It will reveal what lies hidden, but only if you are willing to see. With that, Cale set out once more, the crystal shard tucked safely in his pouch. The desert was as unforgiving as ever, but something within him had shifted. The anger that had fueled him for so long now felt like a chain, and he began to question its purpose. Each step he took was accompanied by memories: his mother's laughter, his father's stern but loving gaze, the way the village elder used to tell stories by the fire. These recollections were painful, but they also brought a strange sense of peace, as if the act of remembering was a form of healing. Days turned into weeks, and Kale found himself drawn to places he had never intended to go. The shard seemed to hum in his presence, guiding him toward hidden truths. He encountered others along the way, a merchant who had lost everything but still found joy in the small things, a warrior who had laid down her sword to become a healer, a child who saw wonder in the simplest of things. Each encounter left him with a lesson, a piece of a puzzle he didn't yet understand. One night, as he camped beneath a canopy of stars, Kale took out the shard and held it up to the sky. Its light intensified, casting intricate patterns on the sand. For the first time, he noticed something inscribed on its surface, words in a language he couldn't read. Frustrated, he clenched his fist, only to feel the shard grow warm. A voice echoed in his mind, soft and melodic, yet carrying the weight of eternity. Your anger blinds you, Kale. Release it, and you will see. The voice startled him, but it also resonated deeply. He thought of the rage that had driven him for so long, how it had consumed him, dictated his every move. What had it truly brought him? Nothing but pain and isolation. With trembling hands, he placed the shard back in the box and closed his eyes. He allowed himself to feel the weight of his grief, his loss, his helplessness. Tears streamed down his face, carving rivers in the desert dust that clung to his skin. For the first time, he did not fight the pain. He embraced it. When he opened his eyes, the world seemed different. The desert stretched before him, endless and eternal, but he no longer feared it. For he now understood that the greatest journey was not one of distance but of the soul. And as he walked, the stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, as if the universe itself was smiling. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more amazing content. Don't forget to hit the notification bell for updates. We appreciate your support. Yet, he felt a pull to see Elias one last time. The tower was as he remembered it, though the sands had risen higher against its walls. Elias greeted him with the same enigmatic smile, though his beard was now pure white. You've returned, the old man said. I found my answers, Kale replied. But I still have one question. Only one? Elias teased. Very well. Ask. Kale hesitated before speaking. The lantern. What is its light? Elias's smile deepened, and for a moment, Kale thought he saw a flicker of sadness in the old man's eyes. The lantern does not hold wisdom, Kale. It reflects it. The light you saw was your own. Kale stared at him, the weight of the revelation settling over him. Then you, all this time. I am but a keeper, Elias said simply. The lantern belongs to all who seek it. Kale left the tower with a heart both heavy and light, carrying the knowledge that the answers he had sought had been within him all along. The desert stretched before him, endless and eternal, but he no longer feared it. For he now understood that the greatest journey was not one of distance but of the soul. And as he walked, the stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, as if the universe itself was smiling. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more amazing content. Don't forget to hit the notification bell for updates. We appreciate your support.